starting into chapter 4 today, which changes us from categorical data that we studied in chapter 3 to quantitative data. You'll notice the data I'm giving here is height. It's measured in inches. There's a unit of measure. What I'd like to show you today is how to make what's called a histogram. Now, you don't need to take super good notes on this part. I'd just like to demonstrate what a histogram really is, and then I'm going to show you what the expectation would be in my class. So the idea with histograms is that we have lots and lots of quantitative data. It's given us a pretty minimal example in this situation. Oftentimes data sets are much larger. The idea is we have so many different possibilities for numbers. We can't make a bar graph. I can't make one bar for every different number. It'd be way too long, too tedious. So the idea is we're going to create groups. And we put them into what we refer to as bins. So it looks like my smallest number is 62. This is not algebra class. You don't have to start at 0. And I'm going to count each line as being worth 2. So my next spot I'm going to go is 64, 66, 68, 70, 72, 74, 76, 78, 80, 82, 84. I have an 83 up there, one really tall student. All right, so instead of giving every number a bar, I'm just grouping them together. And so this down here represents the actual heights in inches. What I'm going to put on my y-axis or vertical axis is how many students answered that particular height or in that group of heights. So if I look at this first section, I'm looking for 62s up to 64s. I'm not going to include the number 64. 64 goes into the next bin. So I include the number on the left. So I'd be looking for 62s, 62.5, 63, 63.5, 63.8, 63.9, 63.99, but not 64. All right, so all I do is I just count. Well, here's a 63. Here's a 62, a 63, a 62. So it looks like I have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 that belong in this group or bin. Notice it's not a bar graph. There's not a space to the side. And then I do the next one. How many are 64 up to 66? Let's see. I have a 65, and that's only 1. So this bar just gets to be 1 tall. Again, no spaces. And I can just keep doing that for each group here. So the next one, I can find 2. And then I find another 2. And then I find another 2. Between, this would be 72 here. Between 72 up to 74, there's another 2. And then I don't see any between 74 and 76. I don't see any between 76 and 78. I don't see any between 78 and 80. I'm up to 80 here. I don't see any between 80 and 82, but I do see 1, 83. So this one will go up to 1. All right, so that is my histogram. That's the big idea. We're grouping them together. But in AP, we are not really focused on mechanics of things. We're not really focused on can you plug in formulas, can you count how many boxes should be there. We're more focused on interpretation. That means we need to be able to make histograms really fast so we can focus on what they mean. And we're going to do that with a calculator. So this is my calculator. Make it just a little easier to see there. This is my TA 84 Plus, designed specifically for AP Statistics. And I'm going to show you how to put the data into the calculator and how to get a graph to show up. So I'm going to go to the Stat menu and just push Enter. And this gives me a selection of lists. It looks like the last time I was here I was working on a similar problem. So I could use list 1, I could use list 2, list 3, it doesn't matter. Just pick one. I'm going to use list 2 just because. So if I use my arrow keys to move around, if I highlight the L2 and I push clear enter, it So we'll wipe out anything that's already in the list. Gives me a nice clean start. And then I just type in the numbers that were given to me. Enter in between each one. And of course, I'm going to try to be careful not to have any typos. Again, I'm just typing in the numbers. I'm doing the same numbers that I just made a histogram for on the board. All right, now I do want to point out one really important thing about when you're creating lists. If you highlight the last entry, and you look right down here, this tells you you're in list 2, and 14 tells you you've now typed in 14 pieces of data. It's a great way to make sure you didn't miss any as you were typing. So there were 14 in this problem, so I'm in great shape there. All right, when we are in math class, we're used to pushing y equals when we want to graph. So really close to what we do in statistics. We type second y equals. That takes us to the stat plots or statistical plots, statistical graphs. So I'm going to go ahead and push enter for number 1. And you can use the arrow keys to move you around between some of the choices. You'll notice some have black behind them. If you want something to be highlighted in black, simply push enter. So it should certainly say on. When it says type, we want the one that looks like a histogram to be highlighted. And then the X list is where did you type your data. Mine is in L2, so I'll push second 2 to get the L2 to show up. Now, if I just push graph, I may or may not get a good window. I may or may not get a graph I can see. So I'm going to go to Zoom, and if I select option 9, Zoom Stat, that will automatically move my window to a place where I can see my graph. So that's a great option for us, Zoom 9. And there's my graph. You're thinking, Ms. Curtis, this doesn't really look like the one you drew. You're right, it doesn't. So when we select Zoom 9, Zoom Stat, the calculator will automatically choose some things for us. So if I select window, I can change it around a little bit. Especially, I want to focus on this line where it says X scale. That's how many I counted by. On my example, I did every 2. I didn't count by 4.2. I counted by 2s. So if I change that to a 2 and then push graph, that looks a lot more like the one that I drew on the board. So just remember, Zoom 9 is a quick way to get just a good graph. If you want to change it around a little bit, adjust the X scale in the window. And that's what we need to learn about histograms. When I ask you to make histograms, 99% of the time I will ask you to do it on your calculator.